name is Peter Janis, and I'm here from Radial Engineering to tell you about the JS2 and the JS3. These are two mic splitters that are designed to essentially do that. Take a microphone and split the signal off to several destinations. The JS2 and JS3 are almost identical. The big difference is how one of them, the JS3, has two isolated outs while the JS2 has one isolated out. So I'm going to talk to you how that works and why that's important and what's not important. So the features, of course, the common features are going to be almost identical. You have XLR in, XLR out on the front panel, and you have two other XLR outs on the rear panel. So that's it. You can stack a bunch of these up together in the J-Rack, and you can also buy similar devices called the OX8 that has, it's like 8 of these in a single rack space. So there you go. There's some just overview of these products. Now let's talk about how they work. Take a microphone. From the microphone, you go into the JS2. The JS2 will then take a direct feed. So this input and here, throughput, is actually direct. It's coupled directly. And this is typically used on a stage or in a touring system where this might be for front of house. So your main mixing console. So that's the direct feed. The importance of this direct feed is 48 volt phantom. Because if you've got a condenser microphone or an active direct box, you need to then send the phantom power back to the microphone via the main console. So you cannot break the ground, you cannot break all those connections, because if you do, of course, you get no power. So it's important just to get that straight. So the first direct feed is not only as far as sound this way, but 48 volts back that way. There are then two other outputs. One output is isolated, and this is where the transformer comes into play. Transformers are cool. Let's take a look how a transformer works. Transformer is basically a core material, a bunch of laminated cores, and you have a primary and a secondary. So when you send in current into one side, it excites the core, it's an electromagnetic field is created, sound kind of travels, or the electrons travel through the magnetic core and create signal on the other side. The fantastic thing about a transformer is that the input and the output are completely separated. There are no coupling between the two. There's no coupling. So there's no electrical connection. And what that means is that a transformer will block DC. So DC, which manifests itself with different reference voltages within an audio system, causes hum and buzz. That's where people talk about ground loops, or so-called ground loops. A true ground loop is actually, or the term ground loop refers to all the different types of noises and buzzes and hums that occur in a PA system. So transformer isolation is super, super helpful at getting rid of buzz and hum problems. And that's because it blocks the DC. So by having a pure signal to the isolated output, you might use this output, let's say, for the monitors or even a recording system. So you can do your recording system with a very clean transformer isolated output. The other output, which is an auxiliary output, is a direct, but it has a ground lift switch. So I can actually lift the ground. Now, the benefit of lifting the ground is ground loops. We talked about those earlier. Well, they also occur when you have an audio path, as in here we have that audio signal going up here, going into this box over here, and then you have a ground that is an electrical ground, and that electrical ground's over here. So you can actually have this happen right there, boom, 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 boom. So the electrical ground and the audio ground are connected together. By lifting the ground, so you just lift that ground with a little push the switch, you actually get rid of that problem. So it gets rid of the buzz and hum. So the transformer along with the ground lift combine or help you to get rid of buzz and hum. And that's really what the JS2 is all about. The JS3 is virtually identical. The only difference is, and I'll just draw this up for you, is that instead of having one isolated out, it actually has a second isolated out here. So that's the JS3. All right, and by having the second isolated out, that of course gives you more control basically over noise, gets rid of buzz and hum. Of course, it's more expensive because that is a more expensive transformer. So that's the sum of it all. Another thing that's common between the JS2 and the JS3 is the ground lift switches, and they are on both outputs. So both of these sides have ground lift switches. which means even if you've got an isolated output, you can have the transformer coupled or not. Finally, there's a minus 30 dB pad on the input here, and that's really important. You can use the JS2 or JS3 with high output line level devices. So in other words, if I'm stuck, I'm in a pinch, I want to take the mixing console output from one mixer and go into another mixer, I can actually run it in here, hit the old pad, and then I have mic level output to feed into the other mixer. So having a pad gives me a little bit of extra flexibility. There you go. Radial JS2, JS3, mic splitters, two-way, three-way. You'll use them all the time once you get them in your kit.